welcome to Africa Right, Sylvester.
Thank you.
Please tell me more about what you're doing with your mum's work.
Well, as you know, my mother just sadly passed away in January this year, and many things came after that, but one of the consequences was a realization that lots of people wanted to read her books, but unfortunately several of her books have gone out of print. And so the idea came to me and a few other people I've been sort of collaborating with, that we should get together and form a publishing company to relaunch some of those editions. We actually have the copyrights for most of them, and a lot of them have actually been digitized. And the process now is about finding book covers and getting all the information and the publishing materials together, so that by January, February next year we should be able to go into production of at least 3 or 4 of her titles. The African novels, The Bride Prize and The Slave Girl, but also In the Ditch. Now these are books which have been really popular in the past, and they still have a wide readership in various parts of the world. But as I said, unfortunately in the UK a lot of them have gone out of print. But I think they really deserve a wider readership, and because of the demand, I think it's going to be quite a successful project, and I'm actually looking forward to developing it.
I believe that your ultimate goal will be to digitise all of them.
Yeah, that's right. At the moment we have digitised, I think, about 2/3 of them. The ones that we haven't digitised are the ones which are still in print, with Pearson's. So they still have a copyright in the UK. But copyright's a funny thing, because even though the copyrights exist in the UK, they're very different from copyrights in other countries. So part of what we've done also has been selling translation rights to various other people. Korea, to Brazil, and recently we just got a communication from China who are interested in the joys of motherhood. And so at some point in the future there may be a translation of her work in the Chinese language, which would be great because it's a massive market. But that's still in the pipeline.
Will that be a first?
Yeah, for the Chinese market, yes. But that's kind of there's a whole new dimension about Afro-Chinese relations. I'm not sure how you describe that. Signage. But yeah, there seems to be an interest, which is really unusual, and it's something which I want to explore and look into.
So is it fair to say that there's a revival of Buchi's books?
I think there is. I think she was one of those writers she made quite a large impact when she first appeared on the scene in the 70s and 80s. And then she went into, I wouldn't say she went into decline, but she became neglected, I think. I wouldn't say there's fashions in these things, but there was a period of time where she didn't seem to be as pertinent to a lot of people. I'm not sure why that was. Maybe it had to do with an ideological shift in the black populations here in the US. But I think now there's a new generation who want to re-engage with her work, and that's actually quite interesting. I think a lot of people want to know about their parents' generation. Her mother spoke about periods which is now historical in some ways, but at the same time it's very pertinent because there's lots of resonances in her experience with what's going on now for so many people in contemporary England. And I think there really is a new readership. A lot of people came to the conference today who hadn't actually read her books, but were interested in finding out more about her. And the fact that she has died meant that there was almost like a new spark of interest. I mean, people actually started asking questions about who was this woman, why was she important. But also I think there's many people who continually would like to have bought copies of her books, but because they were out of print, they weren't able to do so. I mean, I've had to step into the breach and sort of take this opportunity to actually relaunch these books, because publishers, being what they are, they tend to be quite conglomerate beasts nowadays, and they don't tend to specialise a lot on the niche, the smaller authors. So unless you're J.K. Rowling or someone like that, they're not going to give you all the kind of promotion that you need. And so a lot of these writers, for example like my mother, you're still popular, you still have a readership, but because they're not as big as some of the bigger names, they don't get the kind of promotion and the publicity which someone like that needs to actually keep their books in the forefront, people's awareness. I think the situation is slightly different in America, but in the UK, I think, yeah, a lot of her books have been neglected, and I think unfairly.
So is there any particular books that you're appealing for fans to like alert you to, that you're looking for still?
In terms of lost copies of
yeah.
books? Well, I have most of her books. There's one which I don't have, and that's called The Moonlight Bride. And I remember years ago we had a copy, but I can't find it. I think it was published by Page Setters. It's a Nigerian edition. And yeah, I really like a copy because I'd like to digitise that and actually reprint it.
Okay.
It was actually published, I think it was African Writer Series, but I don't think it was published in the UK. I think the imprint was an African one, so that's possibly why I don't have it. But yeah, so if there's anyone out there who has a copy of it and they're willing to loan it to me,
How can they get in touch?
Well, I'm going to set up a website, Buchi Emecheta, because I think that would be great to have a portal where anyone who has any interest or any inquiries about her can actually make contact with myself or one of my collaborators. So that's going to be up and running within the next month or so. But there's also websites for myself.
So it would be www.buchiemecheta.com. Okay.
That's it.
And do you know if her books were in the national curriculum at all?
In this country,
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I know they definitely were in Africa.
Okay.
In Nigeria, there's lots of people I've met who've read her books at school. In the UK, I don't think so, but I think that's like quite an interesting question because I think some of them could be.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're interested in sort of contemporary black experience, I don't see why you can't read some of her early books, particularly In the Ditch or Second Class Citizens. Or if one was interested in learning about life in Africa from a female perspective, then there's The Joys of Motherhood.
And just remind us, in February there's a number of tributes, am I right?
In February there's going to be a day to celebrate Buchi Emecheta's legacy, but also a day for tributes for her because the Brunei Gallery in SOAS has allowed us to use that venue to hold talks. There's going to be lots of presentations, there'll be dignitaries coming from all over the world. It's actually been quite an exciting event. So I'll be looking at the culture of Buchi Emecheta, which means her Nigerian heritage, particularly her Igbo heritage, and the contributions made by her Ibuza countrymen. But also we'll be looking at the journey that she made from Nigeria to the UK. Because I think that's quite a fascinating story. And so in the course of the day we'll actually cover all those various aspects of her life. There's various dimensions. There's Buchi the writer, there's Buchi the mother, there's Buchi the academic. There's so many dimensions to that life that we can actually sort of celebrate and talk about.
And that will be on Saturday the 3rd of February?
Saturday the 3rd of February.
Will you be launching the the announcement of the digitisation then?
Absolutely, yeah. All the works that we'll be sort of working on now, which are in the pipeline, by then they should have come to fruition and we'll be able to launch them officially.
Okay.
On that date.
But you don't have a date, do you, for the launch of the digitised books?
Not actually at the moment, but as soon as we get more clarity on that, I can let you know. But the February the 3rd is definitely going to be the day for the tribute.
Okay. And how has it been for you being here today? And
it's been quite moving in some ways. I'm also very hungry. Yeah, it's been really moving actually to see that so many people have been touched by my mother's works. As I said earlier to a few other people, that I knew her as my mother, and one tends to take one's parents for granted. And you don't really see them in the way that other people do. I was aware that she was a writer, she wrote books, and now I think since her death, ironically, I begin to understand how other people perceived her. Like coming to a conference today and hearing other people talking about their experience of her as a writer is actually quite humbling for me, and so it makes me appreciate her more, but it also makes me realise that her legacy is something which really needs to be preserved, and I think I'm probably in the best position to do that, to actually make that legacy something constructive and solid, and to make sure her memory stays in public consciousness.
Absolutely. And I am really grateful to meet you, because I always wanted to meet her. As I said, I think I've told you a million times. So this is a great honour. So thank you very much. And thanks for talking to Miss B. Wright.